Jana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari जय ओम विश्वपाद परमहंस परिव्राज काचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18, Text 22. Please repeat. Yat idam kūpamagnāyāh bhavantah darshanam mama na brahmanah me भविता हस्तग्राहः महाभुज कचस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापात् यम अशपम पुरा यद इदं कूपमग्नाया भवतो दर्शनं मम न ब्राह्मणो मे भविता हस्तग्राहो महाभुज कचस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापाद्यम् अशपं पुरा यदिदं कूपमग्नाया भवतो दर्शनं मम न ब्राह्मणो मे भविता हस्तग्राहो महाभुज कचस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापाद्यम् अशपं पुरा यदिदं कूपमग्नाया भवतो दर्शनं मम न ब्राह्मणो मे भविता हस्तग्राहो महाभुज कचस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापाद्यम अशपम पुरा यदिदं कूपमग्नाय भवतो दर्शनं मम न ब्राह्मणो मे भविता हस्तग्राहो महाभुज कचस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापाद्यम् अशपं पुरा यदिदं कूपमग्नाय भवतो दर्शनं मम हस्तग्राहो महाभुज कचस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापाद्यम् अशपं पुरा यदिदं कूपमग्नाय भवतो दर्शनं मम ब्राह्मणो मे भविता हस्तग्राहो महाभुज न चस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापायं अशमं पुरा माताजी कूपमग्नाय भवतो दर्शनं मम न ब्राह्मणो मे भविता हस्तग्राहो महाभुज न चस्य बार्हस्पत्यस्य शापाद्यम् अशपं पुरा Yet, because of idam, this, Kupamagnayah, fallen in the well, Bhavataha, of your good self, Darshanam, meeting, Mama, with me, Na, not, Brahmanaha, a qualified Brahmana, may, my, Bhavita, will become, Hastagraha, husband, Mahabhuja, O great mighty armed one, Kachasya, of Kacha, Barhaspatyasya, the son of the learned Brahmana and celestial priest Brihaspati. Shapat, because of the curse. Yam, whom. Ashapam, I cursed. Pura, in the past. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON. Translation: because of falling in the well, I met you. Indeed, this has been arranged by Providence. After I cursed Kacha, the son of the learned scholar Brihaspati, he cursed me by saying that I would not have a Brahmana for a husband. Therefore, O mighty armed one, there is no possibility of my becoming the wife of a Brahmana. Purport: Kacha, the son of the learned celestial priest Brihaspati, had been a student of Shukracharya, from whom he had learned the art of reviving a man who has died untimely. This art, called Mrit Sanjeevani, was especially used during wartime. When there was a war, soldiers would certainly die untimely. But if a soldier's body was intact, he could be brought to life again by this art of Mrit Sanjeevani. This art was known to Shukracharya and many others, and Kacha, the son of Brihaspati, became Shukracharya's student to learn it. Devyani desired to have Kacha as her husband, but Kacha, out of regard for Shukracharya, looked upon the Guru's daughter as a respectable superior and therefore refused to marry her. Devyani angrily cursed Kacha by saying that although he had learned the art of Mrit Sanjeevani from her father, it would be useless. When cursed in this way, Kacha retaliated by cursing Devyani never to have a husband who was a Brahmana. Because Devyani liked Yayati, who was a Kshatriya, she requested him to accept her as his bona fide wife. Although this would be Pratiloma Vivaha, a marriage between the daughter of a high family and the son of a lower family, she explained that this arrangement was made by Providence. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vikasa Swamini Namine. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vashchati Veshatharane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Right, so translation. Because of falling in the well, I met you. Indeed, this has been arranged by Providence. After I cursed Kacha, the son of the learned scholar Brihaspati, he cursed me by saying that I would not have a Brahmana for a husband. Therefore, O mighty armed one, there is no possibility of my becoming the wife of a Brahmana. So we are continuing our discussion on the narration of King Yayati. And in the last class, we discussed how Devyani and Sharmishtha had a fight. And Sharmishtha, out of retaliation for Devyani, she threw Devyani into the well, taking away all her clothes. And Yayati came there in course of his hunting expeditions. And he saw Devyani in that well. And then he brought her up. He gave his hand and he held her hand and then he brought her up. So this instance here, so if you see now, in the previous verse, Devyani said to King Yayati, O great hero, O king, conqueror of the cities of your enemies, by accepting my hand, you have accepted me as your married wife. Let me not be touched by others, for our relationship as husband and wife has been made possible by Providence, not by any human being. So Devyani is telling to Yayati that this marriage, or rather I am accepting you as my husband, so this marriage is proper. There is no impropriety in this particular marriage. Now, this instance, this story of Yayati is also mentioned in Mahabharata. It comes in Adi Parva, and there some more details are mentioned. So there it is said that when Yayati came across that well, and then he saw inside, then the first thing that he asked Devyani was who she was. He asked for her introduction. Okay, and it's mentioned there that Yayati did so because he understood that if he held the hand of a girl, then it is to be accepted as marriage. So before he even took her hand, he asked for her introduction. Okay, and then she says that she is the daughter of Shukracharya, and this is what it is. I have been thrown into this well by my friend Sharmishtha, and you therefore please have to take me up. So what we understand from this is that the kings in the Vedic time, they were very dharmic, and they were very aware that whatever activity they used to do in each and every moment, they were aware of whether they are following dharma or whether they are not following dharma, whether it's adharmic or adharmic. So Yayati was very careful about this, so that was why first thing that he saw, it's not that Yayati was not compassionate, he was, but then he might have devised, it's a speculation, but he might have devised another means of taking Devyani out. But first he asked about her introduction, and after Devyani told all these things, and in Mahabharata it's mentioned in a different way. It's said that Devyani told that because she has been cursed by Kacha and therefore she cannot marry any Brahmana, so it is okay if as a Kshatriya you also pull me out. Uh, so yeah, the point is that Yayati was very particular of following what is proper, what is dharma, and kings used to be that way, like this. But nowadays, if we see, just contrasting with how the kings or the administrators today are, there is no concept of dharma, and their activities are not in line with what is mentioned in the dharmic scriptures. So they do activities whimsically, and because the leader is like this, therefore even the followers of those leaders, that's the common citizens, they are also not following dharma. And the king is also mentioned to be an upholder of dharma in the sense that he makes sure that whatever is required by the citizens, whatever is the necessity of the citizens, that is fulfilled, or it's the responsibility of the king to protect the citizens as well as take care of all the necessities of the citizens, provided that they follow their prescribed duties. So the king's duty is to ensure that all the citizens under his kingdom, they follow their prescribed duties properly. And if they have any trouble, although they are following their prescribed duties, if there are any necessities which are not fulfilled, if there's any problem, then they can go to the king and they can do a petition or a complaint and see how it can be resolved. So this is the setup. I'm speaking in a very general way, but this is the setup that used to have in Vedic time, where a king is there and the citizens are there, and they can be protected both materially as well as dharmically by the king. But nowadays, just to make a contrast, because the king himself is not dharmic and he does not know what is right and what is wrong, what is to be done, what is not to be done, pravritim cha nivritim cha janana vidurasuraha. So he is of asuric tendency. So therefore he does not know which is right for himself, what he should do, what he should not do, and what the citizens should do and what they should not do. So because the leader is like this, therefore the citizens also, to get that which they are not getting, to fulfill their necessities, they take the form of protest. It's not a humble submission to the king. They are not performing their prescribed duties. They have no idea what their duties are. And obviously in Kali Yuga means when they are not following the prescribed duties, there will be so many disturbances also in their life. And with those disturbances, because they do not know how to solve it, what they do is they make protest. They protest against the king and against the government here, and so many other things also follows like that. So, and one more thing is that prescribed duties, when we speak of prescribed duties, they are basically meant for satisfying our desires, our sense gratificatory desires that we may have here. But the ultimate purpose is to elevate oneself spiritually, to bring citizens on the path of dharma and elevate them spiritually towards Krishna consciousness. So that way, both their material necessities and spiritual necessities are all taken care of. Srila Prabhupada writes that when one takes to Krishna conscious movement, or even to follow the path of dharma, his material necessities are automatically taken care of. A Brahmana, when he performs his prescribed duties, then he is not concerned how his livelihood is going to be. Who is going to give him money, how his next meal is going to be. Because it's understood in Vedic culture that when one performs one's prescribed duty, the Lord is satisfied by that, the demigods are satisfied by that, and they automatically provide whatever is required for the people to sustain their life. All their material necessities are provided. So this is from a dharmic point of view. And ultimately, dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam, dharma is supposed to lead one to Krishna consciousness. So when one takes to Krishna consciousness, as Srila Prabhupada explains, then material necessities are taken care of as well as spiritual necessities are also taken care of. But in contrast to how the Vedic society was set up in previous times and to what it is now, people do not have any idea about dharma and what to speak about Krishna consciousness. So therefore their material necessities are not satisfied. Obviously they have no idea of if there is any spiritual necessity itself. Because the whole concept is that they are not, or rather they are this body, and the goal of life is to satisfy this body. There's no concept of spirit, or they don't have that understanding of spirit at all. It's completely in tamoguna. So that way, they have no spiritual elevation, there's no chance of spiritual elevation, and whatever material necessities are not fulfilled, which is obvious because they are not performing their prescribed duties, so that frustration is there in the heart. And with that frustration, what they do is only make protest. And this also takes a political turn, where because the government now is not a monarchy, It's not one single king who is taking care of the whole citizen as in Vedic times, but it is a government of democracy. And democracy means it's an elected government. So elected government means the people also think that they are part of the government. The citizens are part of the kingdom in Vedic times, that is there, but then the full authority lies with the king who takes guidance from Brahmanas. But the authority actually lies with the king. And the people do not, if the king is dharmic, then it's not the citizens' duty to protest against the government or to protest against the king. It's not like that. But now, in the democratic government, it's different because people are electing the leaders. And therefore, they think of themselves as part of the government. It's because of me that this leader has come up into that position. And if something does not work out fine, which it does not in this age, then they take the form of protest, and which also takes a political turn because there will be an opposition party and there will also be the main party. And opposition party will just ignite whatever frustration people have and then elaborate it. So what's the point? The point is that the concept of dharma is completely missing. And therefore, the whole society is put into chaos. There is a system which is called as anarchy. And anarchy is a system when the people or the citizens, they do not follow any rules or the laws of the government. Okay, so now in the present society, it might seem that the government is there, the people are there, and people are following the rules of the state and everything is going on nice. But because an hedonistic environment where people are encouraged only to engage in their sense gratification, they're encouraged only to indulge in their senses irrespective of what the repercussions may be. So that leads one to the height of frustration, and it also leads to an anarchic environment where people, to satisfy their senses, they do not have the tendency or they do not have the inclination to follow any rules and regulations of the government or any laws of the state. So democratic government, in a very general sense, if we see, democratic government actually leads to the state of anarchy, especially when people are not educated about their prescribed duties, about dharma or about spiritual life. But here we see that Yayati was very particular about following religious principles, and he was very particular that he does not hold the hands of Devyani, who he does not know who she is. So because a king is supposed to be the leader, or rather a king is a leader, and whatever he does, then the common citizens follow. Yadyat acharati shreshthas tatta devetaro jana. Krishna also says that as a leader of the society, whatever you do, then common citizens will follow that. So therefore, when Yayati, if he marries someone who is not of the same varna, or who is of that, if that girl is from a lower varna, then it might set a precedent for the citizens also to indulge in these kind of activities. So therefore, Yayati is very, very particular to find out who Devyani is before he accepts her proposal. And if the Kshatriya, he, say in this particular case, if he marries a Brahmana or if he marries a lower varna, say Vaishya or a Shudra, then the citizens also may get an idea that because the king, being a guidance for all of us, if he's ready or if he can do that, then why can't we do that also? So the Vaishya may come in contact with a Kshatriya or may have interest for a Brahmana girl, or a Shudra may have interest for a Vaishya girl or Kshatriya girl. And it creates Varna Shankara in the society, where the Varnas become mixed and people become disturbed, they become deviated from their prescribed duty. So therefore, it's the king's duty to ensure that he sets the standards of following dharma. And this also, nowadays, if you see, actually this attraction between male and female has been there right from the start of Brahma's creation. But the injunctions of dharma was taken care of, or was an attempt or an effort is made to protect the dharma, dharmic principles, even if there is an attraction between the male and female. But now, again, contrasting, it is not there. So this love marriage is very prominent, or we can say it was prominent when we were growing up in the 1990s and 2000s. But now it's more of a economical arrangement or a sensual arrangement, because love marriage has progressed into live-in relationships, where they They may not have any attraction with each other, or they may have a superficial attraction on a bodily basis, on a sensual basis, and they keep changing partners. So it's more of an economical arrangement. They live together. Uh, Obviously, there's no concept of dharma, so they just live together, and then they engage in sexual activities. Economic situations is taken care of, and their necessities are taken care of. And once they get bored from each other, then they move on. So there is no concept of marriage, or it has minimized. The concept of marriage is definitely minimized, and love marriages also have deprived, or they have come down to the level of live-in relationships. So love marriages were there in Vedic times also, but the concept of dharma was upheld at that time. But nowadays, nothing is there. And if you see here, then Devayani, she very explicitly expresses herself when Yayati comes there, that you have to accept me as your wife. There's no problem in us getting married because this has been made possible by Providence. And she also mentions about the curse that Kacha gave her. So if we'll discuss the story of what actually happened. So Devayani is actually falling into love for the second time here. Initially she fell down, or rather she had the intention of marrying Kacha. She was very attracted to him. She had love for him. It's explicitly mentioned in Mahabharata. So that was the first time. And then after that, then that did not work out. So we'll see why it did not work out. And then she is expressing her love for Yayati now. So what had happened is that the demigods and the asuras, they always get into fight. And in Mahabharata, it's explicitly mentioned why they get into fight is because they want to lord it over the material facilities or the material opulence that is there in this universe. So the more control we have over this material universe, it leads to more enjoyment. So demigods and asuras, they're always into this tussle, this fight between each other. And the demigods, they have to be in control. That's the system ordained by the Lord because they're devotees of the Lord. Whereas the asuras are not. So the fight always happens for lording it over the material opulences that is provided by Krishna. So now what happened was that Shukracharya had got this benediction of Mrit Sanjeevani. He had this mantra which he chants, and he can bring back to life those soldiers from the Asura side who have been killed and their body is intact. It's not that the body have been smashed into pieces and then he brings them back. Actually, it's mentioned here, but we will see that with Mrit Sanjeevani, Shukracharya is able to bring back even those people back to life whose bodies have been completely smashed or destroyed. We will see in the story of Kacha. So this is the mantra that, or the potency that of Mrit Sanjeevani that Shukracharya had, and he got this from Lord Shiva. So actually this story is mentioned in Vaman Purana, how Shukracharya was doing lots of tapasya, and he got this Mrit Sanjeevani, the potency of Mrit Sanjeevani from Lord Shiva. So he had that. And the demigods were very disturbed because whenever they used to be fight, soldiers used to die both on the Asura side as well as the demigod side. But the Asura side soldiers were revived again by Shukracharya. But the demigods, the soldiers who were lost there, they are done, they are lost. So Indra, he devised a plan in consultation with other demigods, and they went to the son of Brihaspati, whose name was Kacha. And they told him that you are, so Kacha had this tejas in his face, and he was a very exalted Brahmana, being the son of Brihaspati. So they asked Kacha that you please go to Shukracharya, you surrender unto him as his disciple, and you serve him, and by doing that, you take the vidya of Mrit Sanjeevani. You gain the knowledge of Mrit Sanjeevani so that we can also be benefited by this knowledge. And they also mentioned that you try to please Devayani, because Shukracharya is very favorably disposed towards Devayani. So try to please Devayani, and Shukracharya will be automatically pleased with that also. So your duty is to please both Shukracharya as well as Devayani, and that way your goal is to get this vidya of Mrit Sanjeevani so that you can help the demigods. So Kacha was happy to do that. So he went to Shukracharya, and then he submitted himself to him, and he said that I want to follow the vow of Brahmacharya for 1,000 years by doing service to you, and because you are a very exalted Brahmana, I want to learn from you. You are the most qualified. So therefore, you please teach me, and by doing service to you, I'll also gain lots of merit. So Shukracharya was very happy to see him, and he asked him. The introduction obviously happened. So he asked Kacha who you are. So Kacha very frankly told that I am the grandson of Angira, I am the son of Brihaspati, and I want to gain knowledge from you. Very truthful. So that's the quality of a Brahmana. So he did not hide his identity, because although the goal was to get this knowledge from him, but the idea is not to do it in a vicious manner or in an envious manner or just for one's own selfish necessities. The idea is if the guru is served, then even if the knowledge is gained which can actually harm the guru or can harm those people who are supported by the guru, but still the guru imparts that. We can also see that in the case of Dronacharya, that he gave the knowledge to Drishtadyumna, although he very specifically knew that Drishtadyumna is actually supposed to kill him, like that. So that's the nature of the Brahmana, that also we see, it's highlighted here. So Shukracharya, as a very exalted Brahmana, he accepted Kacha as his disciple, and Kacha he did not ask that my goal is to gain this Mrit Sanjeevani. His only intention at that point of time was to serve Shukracharya. So like that, he did very amazing, brilliant service to Shukracharya for 500 years. Okay, and so 500 years have passed, and in the meantime, because Indra has told that Devayani also has to be pleased, so Kacha was actually very expert in singing, in playing instruments. So he used to enchant Devayani by doing all these things. And whatever Devayani asked him to do, he also used to carry that out. Specifically, she used to ask for flowers from Kacha to bring from the forest. So he used to do that all the time. And he also enchanted her. He also impressed her by singing nicely, playing instruments like that. And he served Shukracharya very nicely. So when the Asuras, after 500 years, they actually came to know that Kacha has a different purpose. He has come here to gain the knowledge of Mrit Sanjeevani. And they knew if the demigods get Mrit Sanjeevani, then the fight will be of equal. Asuras cannot win. It will be very difficult to win. So what they did is they devised a plan to kill Kacha. So Kacha used to herd the cows into the forest, the cows which were given as charity to Shukracharya. So he used to go in the morning and he used to come back in the evening. So the Asuras, what they did, when Kacha had gone to the forest to herd the cows, they came together and they killed Kacha, and they cut Kacha's body into pieces, and they fed those pieces to dogs and hogs. Okay, so he's killed, and his body, there's no remains of his body also. He's done. And then the Asuras felt very satisfied, saying, yes, now our mission is complete. But here, in the evening, the cows automatically came back, and the calves also came back, and Devayani was disturbed because she did not see Kacha along with the cows. So then she petitioned to Shukracharya, and she asked that, Kacha has still not come. All the cows have come, evening has come, we have finished our Agnihotra sacrifice also. All our nightly duties are also complete, but still Kacha has not come. I am very disturbed. So therefore, you please tell me where he is. Find out. So, and Devayani also told that I think because he has not returned, it's the first time in 500 years that it has not happened, or it has happened that he has not come. So therefore, I think he either has been killed or he has died. So if this is the case, then I'll also be very disturbed. I'll also would not want to maintain my body. You please bring Kacha back. Devayani knew Shukracharya had this vidya. So Shukracharya, he meditated and he got to know what has happened. So he chanted the mantra of Mrit Sanjeevani, and Kacha came back to life. So which means that even if the body is not there, still he can chant this mantra and bring back someone to life. So Kacha came back to life, and then he asked what had happened. So Kacha narrated all the story. He said, this is what had happened. The Asuras had tried to kill me, or rather they had killed me, and I was fed to the dogs and hogs. And when Shukracharya chanted that mantra, Kacha actually tore open the bellies, the stomach of all the dogs and hogs who had eaten, and then he came back to life. So this happened, and Devayani was very satisfied now. So the Asuras were disturbed because all their plans were put into ruin. Whatever they wanted to happen, that did not happen. So they devised, again we will kill Kacha when we get an opportune moment. So this time, Kacha was sent to pluck flowers by Devayani to the forest. So Kacha went there, and then there the Asuras again caught him, And this time they killed him and they pounded his body into powder. And then they mixed his body into the ocean so that he cannot be brought back to life. Then the same thing happened. Devyani was again disturbed. Then she again petitioned Shukracharya. Shukracharya again recited the mantra and Kacha came back to life. So then Devyani was again satisfied. So this is the second time that happened. And third time, the Asuras were this time even more disturbed. So they wanted to devise a plan which is foolproof, or by which Kacha cannot come back to life. So what they did is, Devyani sent him to pluck flowers. Kacha was killed there, and this time they again pounded his body into fine powder, and they mixed it in the wine of Shukracharya. So it seems that in those days, the Brahmanas can also drink wine. Okay. So this was then mixed, and they thought if Kacha goes inside the body of Shukracharya, there's no way he can come back. It's not possible. So they mixed Kacha's body they pounded him into powder, mixed his body, or other remnants of the body, into the wine, and then they had Shukracharya drink it. So Devyani was disturbed, and she said that this is happening again and again. And the thing we have to notice is that although Kacha's intention of pleasing Devyani was with an intention to gain the knowledge from Shukracharya, but by these activities of Kacha, Devyani was getting attracted to him. Or rather, she was already attracted, she was in love with him. So Devyani said that, Kacha has again not come, so I think he has died or he has been killed. So you please bring him back to life. So Shukracharya said that, see, the Asuras are killing him. And now if we again bring him back to life, again they'll kill him. So now this is going on. It's like a cyclic process. The same thing again. So better leave this. He tried to pacify Devyani. He said, just leave him. It's fine. Whatever has to happen, happen. The Brahmanas have to tolerate. You are also Brahmin Kanya only. You also tolerate. The Asuras are doing like this. So therefore, no need. But Devyani did not want that. Devyani said, no. If Kacha does not come back to life, then I'll give up my body. And I'll give up my body. I'll die. So Shukracharya was affectionate towards his daughter. So he said, okay, I'll bring him back to life. Then he again chanted this Mrit Sanjeevani. But this time, then the Kacha did not come out. Okay, he did not appear in the front. But a small feeble voice came. Because Kacha had regained his body inside the stomach of Shukracharya. And then he said, my dear Gurudev, I'm inside your body. And if I come out of your body, then you will be killed. You will die, because I have to tear open your stomach and then I have to come out. So you will die. So therefore, I do not know what to do. And Devyani at this point said that I cannot bear the sight of Kacha being dead. And at the same time, I do not want to lose you, father, also. So therefore, you devise a means by which both of you are alive. And the only way it can happen is when Shukracharya teaches the Mrit Sanjeevani mantra to Kacha. Because by that, Kacha will come out of the body of Shukracharya and then he will chant the mantra and he can bring back Shukracharya back to life. So this was the method that was devised. Because Devyani was pleased here. And only to satisfy Devyani, Shukracharya had to do this. Although we do not know whether he had the intention to teach the mantra or not, but just to satisfy his daughter, he had to do that. So then he chanted, or he gave the knowledge of Mrit Sanjeevani, he chanted the mantra to Kacha, and the Vedic system is that when the disciple hears it, he also repeats this once. So he repeated that, and that means that that knowledge of Mrit Sanjeevani is there with Kacha now. Then Shukracharya said, you come out like this. So Kacha tore open the body of Shukracharya. He came out. And then after coming out, he chanted the mantra so that Shukracharya can also be brought back to life. So then both of these things has happened. But whatever has transpired till now, it made Shukracharya very angry to the Asuras. And rather than cursing the Asuras, what he did was he self-contemplated. He said, all these things is happening for so many times, and ultimately, because of my drinking habit, or I'll not say drinking habit, but this path or this way of taking wine, we have been put into this precarious situation where I have to lose my body, I have to be killed, and then again I have to be revived. So therefore, from this point onwards, I make a declaration that no Brahmana should ever drink any alcoholic substance, any wine. And then it is said in Shastra that from that point onwards, this specific point was included in the Dharma Shastra also, and it is specifically mentioned that a Brahmana should never drink wine, should never take alcohol. So this was instituted by Shukracharya. So he did that, and then Kacha continued for another 500 years serving. Although he had got the Mritsanjivani, it's not that he just left Shukracharya thinking that his goal is fulfilled. He remained there because he has given a vow to Shukracharya that I'll serve you as a brahmachari for 1000 years. He remained there, he served Shukracharya properly, and after his 1000 years of brahmachari vrata is complete, then he took permission from Shukracharya to go to the heavenly planets. So at this point, Shukracharya gave him the permission, but Devyani, she expressed her desire to marry Kacha. She said, now you have done so much for me, and I am sure that by my service also you have been pleased. So therefore, both of us should get married. I'm in love with you. She actually says that, I'm in love with you, so please marry me. Kacha says that is not possible, because one is, you are the daughter of my guru, and so therefore, for the respect, because you are the daughter of my guru, I cannot do this to my guru. I cannot marry my guru's daughter itself. That is not proper. At the same time, I have also appeared from the stomach of Shukracharya. So that makes me technically a son of Shukracharya. Just like a mother gives birth to the child from her womb, from within her body, similarly Shukracharya has given second life, or rather third life to Kacha from his own body. So therefore, I am like a brother to you. So therefore, you should not cultivate these feelings of love for me. We are like brothers and sisters. So Devani was devastated when she heard this. Because he did not say no, he just said, you are like brothers and sisters. We are like brothers and sisters. So she said that, see, you have become proud because you have gained everything from here. But because you have hurt me so much, therefore, this knowledge of Mrit Sanjeevani, you will not be able to use it. So that's the curse that Devyani gives to Kacha. And Kacha said, see, I have not transgressed from any dharmic point of view. From Dharma's point of view, whatever I have done properly. I have introduced myself properly. I have followed the orders of Shukracharya properly. I have served him properly. I have served you also properly. I never cultivated any wrong intentions about you because you are the daughter of my guru. And now also, after achieving the Mrit Sanjeevani also, I served my spiritual master, and with his permission, I am moving. And I have gained that knowledge. So you are not justified in cursing me. So therefore, I also curse you back. Because you have done an adharmic act of cursing me, I will also curse you back that you will not get married to any Rishiputra or any Brahmana. So this is the curse. He did not specifically say that you will get married to a Kshatriya, but then he said you will not get married to any Rishiputra or any Brahmana. Like this. So that was the curse. So Devyani, then what can she do? So she continued with her life, and then this instance of Sharmishtha happens. Sharmishtha was the daughter of Vrishaparva, who was the king, who was a Danava, and he was under the shelter of Shukracharya. And Sharmishtha and Devyani, they were together, they were playing together and doing things like that. And then we have seen in the previous verses that Sharmishtha and Devyani got into fight. And one thing which, when I was reading this, if we see the arguments that Devyani and Sharmishtha were using to fight against each other, it was that of the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas, like Brahmanical, we are Brahmanas, so therefore we are better than you, and I am Kshatriya, Sharmishtha said, so therefore I am better than you. But if you see the intention here itself, that women are basically frivolous, or we can say by nature, because of their conditioning, because they have got such kind of body, it's more prone for enviousness and pride. So the fight is not because Sharmishtha was a Kshatriya or Devyani was a Brahmana, but the fight was due to pride of who has taken each other's clothes and out of enviousness for each other. And we also see, when women are together, they have this problem. It's a conditioned nature. Okay. And when they have this, then the arguments which they have used, that I am a Brahmana, I am a Kshatriya, is only to support their enviousness and their pride. So it's not only, their argument is not actually based, or it's not done from the point of view of one being a Brahmana or one being a Kshatriya, or from a Shastric debate point of view, but it was from an enviousness or pride from which they did that fight, and they were giving arguments from different Shastras to prove their point. And we also see that, even if we think that what we are saying is right, then we use Prabhupada's quotes or other things to justify our activities. And deviations also happen because of that. Prabhupada said this, just taken out of context, this, that and all. So we can see the manifestations of that from so many years before also. Okay. And yeah, so Devyani, this was the second time she was falling in love. But if you see from her perspective, she was more attracted towards Kacha, and she could not understand the subtleties of dharma there, which Kacha was able to point out properly. You see, because he has been a disciple of her father, therefore the relationship between him and Devyani is not proper. This kind of relationship is not proper. And Devyani cursed for that. But this time, when Yayati came, then she is speaking from the point of dharma, and here, in this particular point, she's right, that this has been ordained by providence, by the curse of Kacha, that she had to get married to someone who is not a Brahmana. And in this case, Yayati is a next best option, you can say, from not a Brahmana, but Kshatriya. And it's a great king, a very dharmic king. He was the emperor of the whole world. And Yayati's glories are actually mentioned in Mahabharata also. It comes subsequently in Adi Parva itself. So Yayati is a great king, and Devyani circumstantially is in a position where Yayati has seen her naked, and Yayati is the person who's responsible for taking her out also. So everything is working out fine for her. So she then, obviously, she has to get married to Yayati. But Yayati was still considering what is to be done. And specifically his consideration, it's mentioned in Mahabharata, that he was thinking that she is not just a Brahmana's daughter, but she is Shukracharya's daughter. And Shukracharya is a very exalted and very famous Brahmana also. And he is the guru of the Asuras as well. So that consideration also Yayati had. So what is to be done? And so Yayati, he said that, I don't know whether this is proper or not. Okay, I can accept, but it has to be done by the acceptance of your father. Your father should agree to this. And because he's a Brahmana, he would know whether this Pratiloma marriage, whether it's proper or not. And this we also see in the case of Dushyant and Shakuntala. Shakuntala was the daughter of Vishwamitra when he was doing tapasya, and he fell down when Menaka was sent by Indra, and then the child was born as Shakuntala. But Shakuntala was brought up by Kanva Rishi. And because the baby was abandoned, Menaka gave birth to the child, the girl child, and she kept the girl child on the valleys of a mountain. I don't remember the name of the mountain. And then she left because Apsaras, they just left, kept her there and left. And Vishwamitra also said, I cannot take care of this child and all. I have to do my tapasya, become Brahma Rishi, be a competitor of Vasishtha. So therefore, I also going. So he also went. And then the girl child, she was brought up for some time by these birds who are called as Shakuntas, I think. It's basically an eagle or a crane, I think. I don't know which bird it is. So Shakunta birds brought up this girl. So that's why she's called as Shakuntala. And then Kanva Rishi, when he was roaming there, then he took the child and he brought her up. So Shakuntala, although born to Vishwamitra, who was trying to become a Brahmana, she was raised by a Brahmana who was Kanva Rishi. And Dushyant, when he came there, during his hunting expedition, he also came there. And he was attracted to Shakuntala. He wanted to marry her. And Shakuntala was speaking like a Kshatriya. So Dushyanta also was very careful. He also asked who the Shakuntala is. And he got her introduction. And when, by the nature, how Shakuntala was speaking, Dushyanta was able to find out that she belongs to the Kshatriya Varna and not to Brahmana Varna. Because Vishwamitra by that time had not become a Brahmana yet. And he was a Kshatriya who was trying to become a Brahmana by doing these performances. So Dushyant could understand that Shakuntala is actually from a Kshatriya Varna by her speech. So then he convinces her and he unites with her there. And then he leaves for the kingdom. And Shakuntala, when she comes back to Kanva Rishi's ashram, then she says that this has happened. And I think this is according to Dharma. So you please tell me whether it's according to Dharma or not. And Kanva Rishi says, yes, this is correct. Although you have been brought up in this Brahminical culture by me, but actually you belong to the Kshatriya Varna. So this consideration of dharma was very prominent during that time also. That was the point where I told the story. So that was there. And so that way Bharat was born, and the story continues like that. And here also we see that all the varnas, basically from Kacha's point of view, from Shukracharya's point of view, from Brihaspati's point of view also, or rather not Brihaspati, but from Indra's point of view also, he did not send Kacha to threaten or to attack or to do some devious or employ some devious means to gain the knowledge from Shukracharya. Go through that dharmic way, surrender to Shukracharya, do service onto him, and then you can gain that knowledge. And after gaining knowledge also, Kacha remained with Shukracharya for another 500 years. So he followed dharma properly. And during marriage considerations also, we see that from Devyani's point of view also, dharmic principles were upheld. So, yeah, how our behavior should be, how our etiquette should be, what our interactions should be, and what is the proper way of dealing with the situation, and what should not be done. So these things also, these principles also, we should very clearly understand. Okay. So yeah, so these are some of the points which I thought of when I was reading this. So I'll stop here. If you have any questions or comments, then we can discuss that. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.